Priscila went above political lines to deliver on women and girls in parliament.
She took a baby to parliament. So, that alone, I'm a mother myself. Whispers is a space where you feel comfortable. You are still capable despite your roles in society.
Upenyu wangu wachinja zvakanyanya bosi ndakuzivawo kuti chinonzi leadership chi, ndakuzivawo kunonzi kurongeka ndechi, ndakuzivawo chinonzi kuumbiridzawo mamwe madzimai chi nekukurudzirawo mamwe madzimai.
This documentary is going to be as helpful as ever because it's going to help vamwe vana vese vachauya variko izvezvi, those who don't even know their purpose, those who don't even know anything about feminism, those who don't even know anything about what those women in politics have gone through and what they've achieved in standing on their own and becoming the feminists that they are today, and also being as successful as they've become. So I think it's going to help them figure out ways and understanding what they have to do and also finding themselves at a more personal level.
Traditionally, Zimbabwe is a patriarchal society where men appropriate all social roles and keep women in subordinate positions. Radical feminists argue that culture imprisons women, resulting in their subordination. However, despite the disparities, with all odds against them, numerous Zimbabwean women have risen over the years to become very influential leaders and change agents in the passing of laws and their translation into tangible gains for women and girls. Join us as we explore women such as Priscila Misihairabwi Mushonga, Lucia Matibenga, and Honorable Monica Mutsvangwa as we delve into the roles they played as feminist women in politics for us to have the Zimbabwe we have today.
Yeah, I'm the only girl in a family of 5. So I was kind of the princess of the home, princess of my dad and my mom, but also a tomboy to a large extent because in the family we're just boys, and therefore my childhood was around playing with boys and not really being able to separate what is supposed to be female's way of doing things and male's way of doing things. Yeah, so that's my childhood, but very loving family.
Born 67 years ago in Bulawayo. Born to a Ndebele speaking mother and a Karanga speaking father. I grew up in Bulawayo in the blocks, Nintombi Asema Blogwin, Empopoma. But I went to school outside Bulawayo. I'm the only girl in a family of 5. I have 4 children, 2 men and 2 women. I always find it funny to say 2 boys and 2 girls. They are grown-up men, and I have 2 grandsons.
First of all, I was born in a family of 9. I'm the 8th born. I lost my father, who was working, the one who was really looking after the family when I was doing grade 6. So what it meant is I had to really help my mother, who was not educated, who was not employed. We had to move away from town. We were in town. We had to go back to the village to make sure that we make ends meet. My mother was very brave, and she made us work hard to make sure that we raise fees, at least school fees. My mother used to say, I don't want siblings to pay for another sibling. So she would work hard to make sure that she pays our school fees. So I suffered a lot. I'm one child who would wake up early morning morning to go and water the garden to make sure that we've got vegetables to sell. I was very good in selling, and my mother would make like fat cakes, if you know them. I would take them to school and sell, and to make sure that I supplement the income for my mom. I used to go in Zimbabwean where I grew up. There's a big church called GRJ. I would go there, sell vegetables, mbora, repi, cabbage, and I would help my mother to raise money for me to go to school.
I went to school in Masvingo, then called Fort Victoria, Zaka. Then I also did my secondary education in what we call Chivu today, Enkeldon then, at St. Francis of Assisi. I did a bit of French. That's when my activism started, in 1969 when I was doing Form 2. I participated in a strike at the school, and I think that was the beginning of my activism.
I then just became a woman who fought against injustice. Those that went to school with me would know that I had been appointed a prefect, which was really a big thing at that time. But, we felt that we're not getting good food. We felt that we're being treated unfairly. And I led a whole demonstration. And I was dishonored. My prefecthood was taken away from me. And others cried a lot. But I actually walked up to give up my badge very proudly. And I think if I think about the time I started being political, it was that time where I could not sit back and see any form of injustice. And when I look at it now, that became my feminist journey, because feminism really is about fighting injustices in whatever form that injustice is.
Personally, I started off as a very young girl. I didn't realize I'm jumping into politics. But what I knew for sure was to fight for opportunities. When this country was under colonialism, there was not much opportunities for black people in this country, let alone women. And women were actually double oppressed. They were oppressed by colonialism, and they were oppressed in their own homes, in their own communities. And for me, this is the generation I call Samora Machel generation, and I call it that way because it was in 1975 when Frelimo got independence in Mozambique. And as young people, we asked ourselves, what is that we're afraid of? To fight for opportunities for Zimbabwe people. So, having grown in Rhodesia, there was absolutely no opportunity. You only looked up to, as a girl, the only profession you looked up to was either a nurse or a teacher. So I started off, I joined the struggle at a very tender age for a 15-year-old, but we left school with three of my friends. We were 4 girls. There was no men in our group. We were 4 girls, and we told ourselves we will go towards the east, we'll get to Mozambique. A lot more of the students from my school, which is in Chimanemani, which is Mutambara High School, had left earlier before us. So we were going to join them and also get trained, come back and hit the enemy. The enemy was Ian Smith, the Rhodesian Army. So here we are. That's how I started.
We marched, for those who know the area, from Narira Township to where the DA's office was. And we were carrying a petition where we were opposing white rule, white minority rule. And I remember very well being arrested from there. And my father being called to the school to come and take me away. So my school nearly ended at Form 2 because of that strike. But my father just came there and denied that I could have done it because I was so tiny and there were all these big Form 4 people, and my father just said to the principal, look, you are lying. My daughter is not like that. So It was quite scary because we then did some very bad things, like burning the maize in the field, which was used for our rations, for our meals and so on. And then there was an incident when the police stopped us at the range, before we got to the range, or it's called the range, where the DA's office was. I understood the issues that a few people cannot preside over many people. Those issues were very clear at that moment for me, that it was unfair and it was not right for the whites to come into our country and dominate the original people of Zimbabwe.
I said it was not planned. It was me seeing Margaret Dongwa. I just went to her rally, and when she came down, I went to her and I said, I've never been in politics, but I see what you're doing. I want to be around you, hold your bag, get you to cry if you want to, tell me what it is that I'm supposed to do. And of course, when I started working with her, I became her agent. And we were rigged in our first election, and many of the people remember me as this young woman who was crying on TV because I knew that we had won the election, and then fought with her in the courts until we went back, and then she won. And of course, when she won, she then encouraged me to run for council, Ward 6, and then that's where it started. Then I knew that I could run for an election. Then later on, I started running for being a member of parliament.
Zimbabwe is right now, the dire reports, that's still a possibility.
Let me tell you, the Second Republic is working very hard to make sure that the economy is reformed. There's a lot of reforms, financial and economic reforms, which we have put into place, just to make sure that we bring back the economy. To be a leader, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be, it has nothing to do with sex or gender. To be a leader, you just need to stand up and say, hey, I need to work hard for my country. I need to work hard for my community. I need to work hard for my family. That's leadership at family level. So you can be a leader at family level, at community level, at nationally. And I happen to be here as the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. What I'm always telling myself is, what is that I can do to help other young girls understand the importance of standing your ground and say, yes, I'm here. Yes, I can make a change. Yes, I'm part of this change. We need girls who don't sit back and who are shy, who think maybe my space is in the kitchen. I put a lot of time into what I do. I work extra to succeed. I work hard for the women folk, not just in Zimbabwe, but even on the global market. I worked as a vice president of the SADC Parliamentary Forum for the region, and I think I left a mark. For me, whatever responsibility I'm given, I always want to try and do it well for the women folk. Never again in this country or anywhere in the world should women be looked down upon and they say, they put a woman, she will not be able to do it. But they should see the best managerial skills which are there in a woman. Women look at social issues, economic issues, and everything. Women always see that whatever they're doing, it's a package. You never really take one piece at a time. You move around with it all. It's a package for the best results. And personally, in my capacity as a senator in Manicaland and also as a leader in the Women's League of the ruling party, my job is to make sure that I instill confidence in women. I do speak to a lot of young girls who I meet. I share my experiences with them. I also try to understand what they're going through, which I may not have gone through myself, because it's not good to take, to think, oh, what I went through is what you should go through. What I've done, any other girl can do it. And it's only a question of hard work, sacrificing, and just making sure that you believe in yourself.
My father was just in his burial society and just a normal worker. When I got into trade unionism after the war, that seemed to be not a big problem with him, because it was like not dangerous, except that one would lose their job. But there were no physical dangers associated with being a trade union member or leader. Came the formation of the opposition party. Again, he came here and he was pleading with me not to start any war with Mugabe. Well, I listened to him and I promised him that I was not going to do anything, but I knew that now I had my own home and I could make my own decisions, and I could just be telling him what he wanted to hear.
There were men that I keep talking about it. First man who was there for me, Morgan Tsvangirai, saw the potential in me, made me a member, a chairperson of Public Accounts Committee. I was Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister. I traveled with him. Came Welshman Ncube, very supportive, got me to become one of the negotiators. I was the only female negotiator in the inclusive government, and the only party that brought in a woman to the negotiating table. And of course, the latest one, Emmerson Mnangagwa, who has taken me from the opposition ranks and asked that I become an ambassador. So yeah, in those spaces, I have found men that have been supportive. Yes, I've also found men that have been horrible, that have been abusive. But I can pick on men that have really looked at me, looked at the potential and said, we will allow her and we will get her to do this. Even though we may not have seen her do this work, we believe that she could do it.
Because the structure of the ZCTU is president and then 3 deputies. I was the first to be first vice, like a notch or 2 higher. A position in the labor movement is about delivery. A position in the labor movement is about the courage to represent other people who are not bold enough to face the employer. And in this case, in our case in the ZCTU, we had the employer on the one side and the government on the other. And we were like fighting both wars at the same time. So it dawned on me then, I was responsible for 3 portfolios as the first vice president. Organizing, I was also involved in health and safety, and I was also involved in international relations. I was happy as an MP in Kwazan from 2008 to 2015. I was very happy with that space. I came from Gweru all the way to Harare, ran for office and won. The other highlight is that I was able to go to the International Labour Organization in 2 capacities, and I still have my name tags with me. I went first of all as a board member representing workers, and then during the government of national unity, I went as with a tag written government, and my colleagues, my former colleagues in the labor movement were saying, now you come, you are with these ones, you are with the government. So for me, that was very touching, that I'm really wearing a badge written government. The people that I fought for so long as a worker representative, now I'm going to the governing board meeting as a government representative.
It was only when I became a journalist that I was exposed to conversations around feminism. I had older, mature women in the journalist field who were talking around women, gender, and journalism. That's when I then realized that that's where my passion is, and I felt very strongly about those things. I started working for an organization called Women and AIDS Support Network, and HIV brought out a lot of these feminist issues to do with condoms, for example. So you find that one of the first things that I did in my feminist journey was to push for the female condom, because for me it raises issues around gender inequality, issues to do with abortion, because I then could see women that were choosing not to have babies because they knew that if they were to give birth, their babies would invariably get sick or die, and I wanted to give them an option. So those issues around reproductive health and rights then brought to the fore the issues that had to do with feminism. So I must say the issues to do with HIV/AIDS for me spoke to the issues of feminism, and that's how I became a feminist, I think.
For those who know, in Rhodesia, because a lot of our people didn't have much money, so the little money they had, they would send a boy to school and would wait for the girl child to get married. So they would train the girl child to look after the home, to cook, fetch firewood and things like that, and wait for time for marriage. But at independence, there was a deliberate policy to make sure that girls are sent to school. You need to really look at a problem right in front of your face. So whether you are born in a poor family, look for opportunities. I know it's not always easy, but we have seen a lot of young people, and the government is also there. There's BIM. Go out there, look for opportunities so that your fees is paid for. Don't easily give up. I'm trained, I'm a strong soldier, I'm capable to tell men, don't touch, don't do this to me. I don't want anything easy. I'm not lazy. I always say as young girls, never be lazy. Because when you are lazy, then you look up to a man to do certain things for you. You should always remember that you are capable. And for me, I think when you work hard, you are able to find the best partner. Because I think the best relationship among two people is when you've got two people who can independently be on their own, come together for love. Women are very thorough in whatever they're doing, and they also look at the social problems, the problems which actually will make a woman more confident. Issues, when we talk about issues of sexual health, reproductive education, that is important. It gives a woman confidence. When we talk about the importance of having sanitary pads, that's very important. Because look, every woman goes through menstruation every month. And if we are not going to give confidence to that little girl, then that means every 5 days in a month, she's shy or she's not able to attend school. And then she will not be competitive. So these are the issues which we look at. And we're looking at what are the causes of early marriages? What is that which can be done to make sure that young girls realize their potential? Because God gave us the talents.
The whole audience shouted gender, gender on the first vice president election. So I knew already that I was contesting with men. Okay, the organization itself was very ready for women, in that even if it was a forced thing by donors and funders funding all these programs to make sure that your organization has got women and is gender sensitive and compliant. It's very easy for a man to walk out of this house and go there and find vakomana veyouth wanting kutengerwa doro obva ati kreti yamazai here kana kutengera vafana vangu doro, ovatengera doro kuno kuuya oexplaina kuti no, ndawana vakomana vari patight huko, saka mazai aya handina kuzotenga. A woman can't make a decision like that. It has to be agreed. So you find that in that scenario, a woman is at a disadvantage in terms of how they can just make decisions around financing and what to spend on. The Saka campaign yako is incapacitated. Look, if we were two candidates and the male got there, akawana mayouth achiwa nyota akavatengera doro, ini ndasvika ndine mari yandatonzi mai mwana kana moya muine 10 kg yeupfu, ndinotongoisungirira svika ndadzoka neupfu, uyu atowina. Inini ndatonzi madha vana kana kuti pakana mvura yekunwa. At some stage I ended up being the leader of the SADC unions, being supported very well by COSATU then and all the other big unions in the region. which were really led by men.
Well, clearly there will be challenges in circumstances where a group is a minority in terms of rights, and a group is an oppressed one. It was true of the race issue, black versus white. When people are oppressed, they naturally, out of instinct, because they are fighting for spaces that are limited, there will be that contestation. So you find that for women, when that contestation is there, it's because the space in which is available for them is limited. I suffered from clinical depression, which was a mental illness, and I literally had to go on medication. I left the country and stayed in India for close to about 2 months whilst I was getting treatment. And yeah, that was my lowest point, because that was the point in which I told myself it's not worth my while. The strain, the stress is not worth my while. And you remember that it was then that I came and resigned as the Secretary General, because I'd been the first Secretary General of a political party in Zimbabwe. It was really hard for me, and that clinical depression, that mental illness really got me down. But I'm glad I went through it, because now I'm able to pace myself and do things and understand that if you stretch yourself too much, your body can actually fold and refuse to function. And that was the lowest part.
At least you guys now have the social media, where even if they throw stones, you don't see them, they are virtual. You are just dishing out your information from the comfort of your home. Now with us, you would go to the rally then, when you shout the slogan, if they don't want you, they will start shouting, "Hooray!" or "Nyarara, tibvire mbuya imi," and so on. And it was very damaging and discouraging for women.
Women in politics, they suffer through a lot, and people look down upon them. What is reported in the press, social media, with the advent of social media, they report all things which are negative. Instead of talking about the leadership skills, what that woman has, they start looking at personal life. Are you married or are you not married? I mean, these are things we should never get to your heart.
In the family, I must say, I still had my late husband when I was in my, not in ZCTU, but in my own union, the Commercial Workers Union. And participation for me was very difficult, because I would not get the permission to go for activities. And I think I need to mention this, because these are some of the challenges that women face, and half the time you find Uti, those women that make it in politics are usually unpartnered. You want to compete with people who are free. You are not free in that you have to constantly refer to your partner if you are partnered. Nandafunga kuti ndimboprinda kana ma-t-shirts 10 timbopinda ndakadai tichaona, but time is moving kind of thing, chiti vachaona. So but murume antongoti mai mwana ndaprinda ma-t-shirts, pano motomboenda mukati ndinotana muriwo mubikire vana. The decision is made, and sometimes one misses out on very important trips or workshops where people are being empowered on how to lead and so on, because then the men just wakes up and say, panapa hakuna kwamuri kuenda, panapa tiri pano pa weekend tirutenda kushurugu kunorima. That would be it.
And my parents were harassed, arrested during that particular point in time, because we had changed the birth certificate. And it was quite sad to see my parents suffer because of a position that I had taken. I've only got one child, and because of the politics of the day, I had to take him out of the country. And I remember just putting a badge on him and putting him on the flight to the UK, where my cousins were and not knowing what's going to happen and not having a life with him. He is 27, 28 now. I've not been with him for the time. So I've not, my motherhood, and this child has not had a mother.
I was the public service minister. It was an appointment made in hell. I got hypertensive because sometimes they were very violent. The unions came to my office one day and were preventing me from leaving because they were saying that they want a salary increase. The difficulty when it came to politics was around the name. And this is what women should think about. This is why now I love the way you guys are going about it, double barrel name or something. Because you are using somebody's surname. Like in my case, when I ran for parliament in Shurugwi, it was not where I come from. It was an area where I was married. I was an in-law there. And I was running against the grain, as it were, against ZANU-PF. And my in-laws were very worried about their name being used to do opposition. The other huge problem is issues of financing, because politics itself is very expensive. You need resources, starting from even being able to board a bus to go and campaign, to carry your campaign team along with you. What are they going to eat? Where are we going to sleep? What are we? Where are the t-shirts? How are we going to print t-shirts or leaflets or flyers and so on?
I'm sitting here as the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, and I'm in charge of the media section. And what I've done in the last 3 years is just to make sure that where does it all go wrong? Why would you pick a newspaper and read something derogatory about another woman? What can be done to change that? And what I found out is we have less and less women, we had less and less women in decision-making positions in the media institutions. And we have been deliberately working hard together with both public and private media to make sure that women are also pushed. Today, I'm very proud to say we have good women sitting as editors. We have, for the first time in the history of this country, we have a woman leading at the Zimbabwe National Broadcasters, at ZBC. I mean, these are issues which we want to continue seeing more and more women.
Well, clearly bringing in the inclusive government, the JNU was for me the height. And also in that it provided me opportunities to get into very high spaces. I remember at one time at a SADC summit where I was being asked by the then President Robert Mugabe to address the heads of state around what was happening on sanctions, for example. No one would be allowed to address a heads of states. And it was a SADC summit. And he actually requested and said, please, can you vary this? Working through a constitution that had so many of the gender issues. Because whilst I sat there, I also linked up with a lot of women outside, so that if there were issues that had to be brought at the negotiating table, I would bring them up. So I would say, in terms of a legacy, when I look at the Constitution, I'm really proud that I was part of that process.
On average, every month, a woman has 7 days of menstruation. Some are lucky they will have 3, some are like us will have 7 days.
And of course, the things that I've done in Parliament, a lot of people have issues with it because they think, I was trying to play the queen and get people excited. But for me, I knew I had to go that far to make a difference. So bringing in sanitary ware in the house and pushing for sanitary ware, first for the removal of the taxes, but more importantly, just before I left, my biggest go-away gift, actually getting government to put in resources to buy sanitary ware for young girls in school.
I must say, generally, I'm very happy. I say I did my part. my tenure as an MP in Kwadzana, because I know that I left a legacy there of how to organize women. I never bought anybody anything, but I organized people to be self-sufficient. Ndakapinda nenyaya dzemukando, kutengerana mapoto nendiro nei. And I'm very happy about that program. It went on very well and it's still being talked about in Kwadzana.
Bringing a baby into parliament and ensuring that today, when you walk into today's parliament, you'll find a breastfeeding room where young women can come in and can breastfeed. I'm hoping that it can become bigger so that it's a play station, it's a playroom for you to do your work but not worry about what is happening with your baby. Making sure that girls that are pregnant can stay in school in spite of the attacks, but we now have it in law in our Amendment Act that girls can't be sent away from school if they are there. We brought in the issue of marital rape, something that was not understood in this country, but if you are a husband and you rape your wife, you can actually be convicted. So for me, Parliament gave me an opportunity to speak to the things that mattered to me.
We went through a constitution-making process, and I was part of that committee of 25 members of Parliament. In fact, I was one of the co-chairs. And what I was very proud about when we went out for the outreach, when we were talking to the people of this country, even the traditional chiefs, they spoke to the issues about women empowerment. They talked to the issues of eliminating gender-based violence. And this is why the Ministry of Information, we are making it possible for every girl out there to access information, whether it's about sexual reproductive health, whether it's about herself, who she is, and what she means to this country. I'm very happy about that solidarity campaign which was initiated by the UN Women, He for She Solidarity Campaign. Because since Beijing times, we have been talking about women issues. Women have been talking about women empowerment. But it is important to bring men on board. We need male champions to talk about the issues of women empowerment, the advantages of empowering a woman. And we are very grateful that the President of the Second Republic has actually taken it upon himself to make sure that the statue of Mbuya Nyamunda is right in the middle of Harare. That is good. Young girls can actually see that we started off a long time ago as women.
We were able to organize women's advisory committees that were at national level, at provincial level, and indeed in the particular unions. And that was very exciting to see ourselves recreating ourselves at those levels and saying, right, let's have a critical mass of women that will also lead from the front like we are doing, and not be selfish to say, now that I'm there, so the door is closed, kind of thing.
Ash Whispers, you're doing a wonderful thing. It is good to be out there, going around documenting the work which the women of this country are doing. There's a lot which has been done in this country by the women. Never think politics is for those. Politics is about worrying about your own community, your own family. Is there a clinic nearby? Is there a hospital? Are there roads? Are children going to school? Are girl children being protected? Are they being given safe places so that they can actually realize their potential? So these are the issues which we are concerned about as women.
I like the attitude that you have an organization like Whispers. Whispers is just like a social club, but you know what? They are sharing how to be a leader. They are sharing information which is critical about the governance of this country. Are you going to vote? Are you not going to vote? Is it important to vote? Is it important to register to vote? And they are having different conversations.
Praying that 2023 will bring an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old in Parliament, because the opportunities are now available. Unlike me, was being stopped from participating and being a councillor because the age could not allow me to. Now there's been an opening up of that age so that even a younger person, 18, 19, can actually run as a member of Parliament. And I'm rooting for some of my girls in Whispers to be those that will start being in Parliament at 18. Don't let anyone tell you the word can't operates in a person. It's possible. You just have to wish for it, you have to want it, you have to fight for it. It's possible. You can be anything that you want to